Okay, now we are back. I apologize, everybody. Scarlet's going to be calling right back. I hope. I may need to call her actually. So give me just 1 second here, and we're going to pop on just for a minute here. Let's do the dragnet.
Just don't understand. Maybe we do, son. Don't think you have a corner on all
Okay.
the virtue vision in the country.
And
or that everybody else is fat and selfish and you're the first generation to come along that's felt dissatisfied. They all have, about different things, and most of them didn't have the same opportunity and freedoms that you do. Let's talk poverty. Most places in the world, that's not a problem. It's a way of life. And rights, they're liable to give you a blank stare because they may not know what you're talking about. The fact is, more people are living better right here than anywhere else ever before in history. So don't expect us to roll over and play dead when you say you're dissatisfied. It's not perfect, but it's a great deal better than when we grew up. 100 men standing in the street hoping for one job, selling apples on the street corner. That's one of the things we were dissatisfied about, and you don't see that much anymore.
You're taller, stronger, healthier, better educated, and you live longer than the last generation. And we don't think that's altogether bad. You've probably never seen a quarantine sign on your neighbor's door. Diphtheria, scarlet fever, whooping cough. Probably none of your classmates are crippled with polio. You don't see many mastoid scars anymore. We've done quite a bit of fighting all around the world. Whether you think it was moral or not, a lot of people are free today to make their own mistakes because of it. And that may just include you.
I don't know. Maybe part of it's the fact that you're in a hurry. You've grown up on instant orange juice. Flip a dial, instant entertainment. Dial 7 digits, instant communication. Turn a key, push a pedal, instant transportation. Flash a card, instant money. Shove in a problem, push a few buttons, instant answers. But some problems you can't get quick answers to, no matter how much you want them. We took a little boy into Central Receiving Hospital yesterday. He was 4 years old. He weighs 8.5 pounds. His parents just haven't bothered to feed him. Now, give me a fast answer to that one. One that'll stop that from ever happening again. And if you can't settle that one, what about the 55,000 Americans who will die on the highways this year? That's nearly 6 or 7 times the number that'll get killed in Vietnam. Why aren't you up in arms about that? Or is dying in a car somehow moral? Tell me how to wipe out prejudice. I'll settle for just the prejudices you have inside yourselves. Show me how to get rid of the unlimited capacity for human beings to make themselves believe that they're somehow right and justified in stealing from somebody or hurting somebody. And you'll just about put this place here out of business.
I don't think that we're telling you to lose your ideals or your sense of outrage. They're the only way things ever get done. And there's a lot that still needs doing. And we hope you'll tackle it. You don't have to do anything dramatic like trying to come up with a better country. You can find enough to keep you busy right here. While you're at it, don't break things up in the name of progress or crack a placard stick over somebody's head to help him see the light. Be careful of his rights, because your property and your person and your rights aren't any better than his. And next time you may be the one to get it. We remember a man who killed 6 million people and called it social improvement.
So hang in. Don't try to build a new country. Make the old one work. It has for over 400 years. And by the world's standards, that's hardly more than yesterday.
All right, everybody. Welcome back. Scarlet is with us, but she has had a family emergency right now. Little guy's sick, and apparently it has already spread to cis. And so she has puking children, so she will be in and out as needed. That being stated, I know she won't take that long. She'll do what needs to be done, but mom life, guys, it's the real thing, and this is live. I know a lot of you listen to us later and whatnot, but this we do record live, so life happens, guys. This is just how it works. Now we at the time were rolling along, and then we got cut off because we were talking about the Pampers thing. And so we looked it up. It's $349 for this Pamper system, and it's the little thing that sticks to the diapers, and you only get the little sensor, and then you get the little camera, and then you get up to 10 diapers. whoop-de-doo. And that's $349. Now, Scarlet knows the competitor. I think it's Owlet or Allie. Um, and it is only $299. And, does basically the same thing. So, she had told me a bunch more information about it that I didn't necessarily get because I was filling out the stuff to get us back on air. And then, right as we were coming on live, I just heard that little one puked and some obscenities flew around, and then dead air on Scarlet's end, which means that Scarlet is on mute and keeping it that way for a minute. Because life and mom life. We were talking about how you rock the mom life, G.
Yeah, duh. Like, I've never had to deal with two of them at once. Doing this is awful. Like, really bad.
This is awful, like, really bad. What is going on here?
Yeah, I'm currently searching for a vomit
Let's
receptacle.
try that. A vomit receptacle?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for right now. The little one just started vomiting. So we thought we were in the clear. Big one was vomiting everywhere. And now little one is vomiting everywhere. So it is.
I know. We had
all through the house. Okay, but I did go buy some really fancy elderberry today. That was like $20.
Hey, you know what? Do me a favor and call me back because you're talking and my little bar isn't picking you up.
Oh, okay.
So maybe it's not picking you up because I called you this time?
Probably. Let's do that.
Okay. Alright, now we're gonna work on her calling back. How weird. It seems like it's not picking up very good right now. Oh, look at that. I can control that? I didn't even know. Okay, so I just discovered something new, guys. And maybe this will help some. Yay! I think it definitely got louder. Now we'll wait for Scarlet to call us, and it should be good. It should be so good now. I didn't know that I had this little thing here. I don't know what auto ducking is, but I clicked on it, and I scrolled down and I found this volume thing. And thus, boom, baby. Boom, baby. Some volume. How interesting. So now if it gets too loud, I think it blocks out some noise. That might be happening. Ooh, exciting. Come on, where is she? So like I said, when Scarlet first called back in, guys, I'm really super sorry. I know it takes a minute. We're working on the volume. We're working on the quality. We're working on all of that. Okay. So, when I said we were going to jump back to the 80s, or flashback to the 80s, I happened today to come across a very old book. I've had it around quite some time. I can't even tell you how long I've had it. It made the move, I know, from Pennsylvania to here. And I had it for quite some time, just kind of sitting on a shelf. And it was published, the only date that I can find, actually, is the copyright, which was 1982. There's no actual publishing date that I can find in here that I've seen thus far. So, that being stated there. I'm just checking the back of the book here again to make sure that I didn't miss a date or something of that nature, right? Okay. Which, no, I don't seem to have, so I'm going to assume okay, so, came across it, 1984. It's Rodale's Encyclopedia of Natural Home Remedies. It was by Mark Bricklin, who was executive editor of Prevention Magazine. Also the author of the best-selling Practical Encyclopedia of Natural Healing. Now, we're basically just going to do like a kind of report type of a deal on this. Kind of like a book report deal. But the important thing about this really is, and you've heard us talk about it here on Journey plenty of times, that we have strayed away, the more we have strayed away from actual solid books. Books, hard books. Books that we actually read. We've gone to the tech world a lot for our knowledge and our ideas and our thoughts, and we're gonna go back to the basics when we did that episode of Journey, just like about 3 weeks ago. We did that episode, and back to the basics. Knowledge is information gained through experience. So, I have stumbled across this handwritten, well, at some point it was handwritten, book that I've had, from the 80s. Now, the thing about this is, 1982, early 80s, and the thing about this is, it's in black and white. It's in my hands. It's been in my home for years. You can't alter it. You can't change it. You can't erase it. You can burn it like they did way back in the day. But see, they've been doing book burnings, and we just haven't really taken notice because it's just information on the internet that's disappearing. here, there, or wherever. And it's not that big of a deal, or so we think it's not that big of a deal. And well, shoot diddly. Because we don't even know it was there. We can't fix or alter something we don't know. Or not fix or alter, but we can't learn something if it's not presented. And we've had a lot of knowledge restricted.
Hello and welcome to the Mental Health Hotline. If you are obsessive compulsive, press 1 repeatedly. If you are codependent, ask someone to press 2 for you. If you have multiple personalities, press 3, 4, 5, and 6. If you are paranoid, we know what you are and what you want. Stay on the line and we'll trace your call. If you're delusional, press 7 and your call will be transferred.
Okay. Sorry about that. We had a life issue moment there.
Oh my gosh,
Oh, good.
it's
Scarlet. Okay, welcome back, Scarlet.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
Oh, yay. And now you're registering, and check it out. I just found this little thingy on here that I've never seen before now. And it's probably been here the whole time, and I just haven't seen it. But it's like this little thing that reminds you of like what the little like I guess emoji was for like the equalizer. And it has this thing called auto ducking.
Right.
Which I didn't know about. And I'm gonna actually turn that back off, I think. Because it seems like it's crazy. And I think it might be cutting us out sometimes. But it let me scroll down. And when I scroll down, there's a volume control.
Oh.
And we were at less than half.
Oh, maybe that would help, because then people could just turn us down on their device. If we're too loud.
I just pumped us.
Makes sense.
I just pumped us all the way to the top volume.
So if you guys are hearing us all of a sudden really loud, just turn down your device, and then you'll be able to hear us better. But we're trying to bring you a better experience. Let us know.
Right.
Let us know. I'm out of life crisis mode for now. No one's puking currently. So
awesome.
I mean, we're good.
So
I'm just hoping at this point we all don't fall. Please pray for us out there, y'all. If you're listening to this program,
okay, listen.
And her family right now, because it's crazy.
I'm gonna help you right now.
Okay.
Hold on, G. Okay. Hold on. Give me just 1 second, because we was just getting here. So give me just a minute and let me go. Let my fingers do the walking. Hold on.
But you know I can't hear that, right?
What?
Whatever you're about to do.
Oh, I said I'm letting my fingers do the walking.
Right, okay.
So hold on just a second while my fingers are doing the walking is what I was saying. Basically. And you're throwing up. What's going on? What? Kids are throwing up. Right. Oh, I bet you they have that crap under vomiting.
Oh, you got a book or something? Hey.
No, they don't.
You don't got a book? What pages you turning? You're turning pages.
Dude, you know me.
Yes, and I know the sounds around you better than anyone else. You could just put me somewhere with Red, and I'd be like, Red's probably doing this.
Right.
It's real. I mean, not trying to be that guy, but You know how many times I've been like, "Are you doing that right now?" And you'd be like, "Yeah."
That is true.
Mm-hmm. I just know your style is, what you do. Which is so weird to say, but, when you live your life through the sound.
Huh. That's
What?
so weird.
What'd you find?
Nothing.
That is weird.
Right. So, okay.
Yeah,
I have found this book.
Okay.
And like we were just saying, okay, the important thing about having a book in my hand
Right.
is the fact that we have changed so much over into digital.
Yeah, and they change the words and they change the content sometimes.
And they erase things.
Yeah, and they re-put things back in. Like, if you don't have a physical copy of the book, you can't check when they make changes.
Right, and like also like we were just saying, book burnings have been happening. They're just different now because they're just doing it on the internet and we don't know.
Yep. It's true. And
Okay.
or they're removing them from libraries.
Right.
And or people who have been requesting certain copies of books that exist that are vaccine related have been getting denied for public libraries.
Right. So,
so something's going on with that.
I have found this book from 1982.
Right.
And it is Rodell's Encyclopedia of Natural Home Remedies.
Right.
Now,
flu, influenza, maybe they have one for that.
Oh, they do have quite a lot, actually, for flu.
Yeah, look up influenza, because I don't know if that's what it is, or norovirus, you could maybe look up.
Oh, no, neurovirus wouldn't have been around then.
Norovirus would have been around. Norovirus is a common stomach ailment. That's what like when everybody gets sick at like a job all of a sudden and everybody goes down within like a day. That's norovirus. There's no vaccine for that either.
I bet I could have just looked it up back here.
That's not that other one that you're thinking of.
Okay.
Yeah, norovirus would have been common even back then. Like it would have been something that would have been known.
I know one of the main things that they say for flu is vitamin C. What?
I said we all know elderberry.
Hey, you know what? Here's a fun fact.
Huh.
Here is a fun fucking fact right now.
FFF.
Okay?
We should start calling them FFF.
Right.
Here's an FFF for you.
Here's an FFF for you.
F squared.
Right.
Whatever you want to call it. Triple F squared. I don't care what you call it. FFF.
Fun fucking fact for you.
Right. Or you could be just like...
Now.
Fun fucking fact.
Again, 1982.
Right.
Now, before I say this, hold on. I want to look up one more thing, but fun fucking fact right now. I am not wrong. Okay. 1982. What did you just ask me to look up in home remedies?
Flu and or norovirus?
Neither. Neither are listed in here.
Really? Huh. Is that funny?
But you know what is in here, G?
What is?
The chicken pox.
Right.
Let's talk about how they describe the chicken pox. I think this is an important fact, right?
Right.
Because, G, if you listen to what they're telling you right now about the chicken pox, what happens to you?
Die.
You could possibly fucking die. It's drastic, right?
Right.
FFF for you. Who doesn't, and I'm going to quote, who doesn't remember that long ago childhood bout with chicken pox? The dreary days in bed, the darkened room, and the worst of all, the awful itching. It all may seem very nostalgic when it happened 30 or 40 years ago, but it's not so fun now when it's your kid with the chicken pox. So,
Right.
here's some antidotes that have helped. Now stop. Hold the fucking train. So you mean to tell me in 1982 they didn't think the chicken pox was going to kill them? I don't see anywhere in this book where it's like, hey, chickenpox is like this deadly, deadly thing that people are just going to fall over and keel over and die for, and don't risk it, and oh my God. They even call it nostalgic. Did I lose you?
No, I'm here.
Oh. They call it nostalgic.
Wow.
How did we go in 30 years from being nostalgic to being deadly? Right?
Right.
How does that happen? I mean, they really think it's deadly now. So let's go back to 1982 when these things were actually running rampant, and we can't go and change the information, because what we have collected here, what he has collected, is an encyclopedia of knowledge. Because when we go back to the basics like we did before, and we're going to do more episodes of that, back to the basics, by the way, guys. But when we go back to the basics and definitions, knowledge is information gained through experience. So that is what this man compiled in the 80s, is this encyclopedia of people's actual written in knowledge and information. Okay?
Right.
So if we now are supposed to believe that people were dying back then, because you know how many times have we heard stuff like, oh my gosh, if you get the chickenpox, you could end up in like a bubble and blah, 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 blah. Right?
Right.
How's come they don't say that? They don't bring that up in the memories. They're like, remember when you had it? Dreary days in bed, darkened room, and worst of all, awful itching. They don't even talk about a fever. Because remember, that's what's so dangerous, right? About the chickenpox is this fever that you have. I don't remember really having a fever when I had the chickenpox. Maybe a little bit of one, but not one that was like drastic. Oh my God, like my brain's going to fry like an egg. I had the chickenpox when I was a kid. You didn't though, right, G?
No, I have. I've had the chickenpox.
Okay, do you remember having a fever?
Yeah, I do actually. I remember not feeling really good at all. It hit me really bad. I was one of those kids who got it bad, but not so bad like where I had to go to the hospital bad. Just like I just remember bathing in calamine lotion, being extremely itchy, itching everything, not being able to stop itching.
Right.
I remember it being awful, terrible, awful. But at the same time, too, I don't remember it. The only reason why I remember it is because, okay, as a kid, I had a lot of self-awareness, okay? I don't know if everybody as a kid had as much self-awareness as I did. At like 3-4 years old, I told myself, one of the first memories I created, I was in my Ghostbusters pajamas, running from the freezer to grab my parents' pack of cigarettes, and I was like, I'm going to remember this moment forever. And I remember saying that to myself, and I remember that moment forever. So I had a lot of self-awareness that as a kid that I would remember things and be like, no, I'm going to remember this because this is crap. So a lot of things, I don't necessarily remember exactly how it felt or, you know, how long I had it, what time of year, what year I had it, or anything like that. But what I do remember is it was terrible.
Okay, keep talking, G. Hold up just a second. I got to take a little...
Yeah. No, it was absolutely awful because, yeah, I can't tell you how many days I had it. I can't tell you none of that. But what I can tell you was it was very bad news. I did not enjoy it. It was not fun. But I did not die. Nor did my parents ever think I was going to die. It is a very different situation. Even right now with my kids, they've only vomited one time. Not that concerned yet. You see?
Now,
if I start seeing more sickness in my children, then I would, obviously take action.
now,
But like I was just saying, though, my parents never acted like I was going to die, though, either during that time. It was
right.
like they prepared my deathbed, and they're like, very concerned, or brought me into the hospital or anything like that.
Exactly. Okay. And I would also like to bring up, since you asked me to look up those two specific things, influenza and the neurovirus.
Right.
Okay. Because we're made to believe that, back in the 80s, these were huge issues, right? That's what led us to make a vaccine to prevent it, because it was just so overwhelming to our society. How's come in the book of natural home remedies in 1982, they don't mention nothing about no flu or no influenza? There ain't nothing in here for it.
Right.
It's not in their table of contents. So if they mention it in here, it's not really important. It didn't really make the cut of things that apparently people complain about on a regular basis. Oh. Wait, I did find the flu. Hold on. But it says see also sinus problems. So, hold on, let's see. Because I hadn't specifically looked for this before. Okay. Hold on. Oh, okay, so let's see what it says here. It's got some history.
Right.
Interesting. Okay. Great Flu Epidemic of 1918. Okay. 1918, G. Thousands died in the United States.
Yes, from it was like, I think, a swine flu outbreak or the Spanish flu of 1918.
Oh, and it says this could have been prevented using principles of hydrotherapy. There was a certain nurse in Minnesota, in a small Minnesota town, G, where many had been dying, and she lost not a single person to the flu by applying hydrotherapy methods. And other nurses in other places had the same experience.
That's interesting.
And the hydrotherapy that they recommend you can do off-grid. So what they say that they want you to do is do hot packs.
Okay.
And you do steamed or wrung out boiling water.
Okay.
Wrap in dry wool or part wool wrapper.
Okay.
Apply on chest over a layer of dry towel. Then cover it all with another dry towel.
Wow.
When they cool down, takes about 5 to 7 minutes. Then you want to do a ice water washcloth briskly rubbed over the chest. Then dry. Then apply another hot pack. Do this 3 times. You can also do this to the feet at the same time. Or immerse them in a hot tub of water.
Great.
Also have a cold washcloth continually applied to forehead. Do the whole treatment at least twice a day. Keep warm. And they say that that will rid you of chest cold, flu, and pneumonia.
Oh. That's good to know.
But that is the only thing that it says about the flu.
Okay, not flu related, but really important that needs to get out here before we get off here, okay? Are you ready? I don't think you're ready.
What?
Fairbanks, Alaska. Starting January 8th, 2020, in certain situations, residents will have to register their wood stoves with the state of Alaska. For those who already have a wood stove, it is voluntary. According to the Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation, registration of a wood stove is required when, upon the sale of conveyance of a device, before closing if the device is being sold, leased, or conveyed as a part of an existing building or other property, to participate in the burn right program, to participate in the wood stove change-out or conversion program, before any closeout or compliance enforcement action. Stephen Hoke with the Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation says it helps them with further projects and help improve air quality. This has the largest fucking state in the union with those least amount of people talking about some air quality. Ain't no air quality issues in Alaska. That's a joke. We're working towards cleaner air. The overall goal is to work towards cleaner air, not to track who has what wood stove. BS. If we could figure out how many there are out there and where they're at geographically, less to do with address, but geographically. Geographically is my address, a-hole. Otherwise, you just want a zip code, dick. Okay?
Right.
Cleaning up and working towards that EPA standard, said Hoke.
Right.
Okay, now, EPA standard, hold up. You're telling me that Alaska somehow has an air quality problem. Okay? Now, have you quantified if the volcanoes that comprise Alaska have not been going off and sending ash into the air? Could that be causing air quality problems?
Right.
Because I highly doubt with how many residents live in the state of Alaska that somehow their wood stoves are causing an issue. When the Inuit people have made fires outside of wood stoves since the beginning of goddamn time. And supposedly, according to history, all the people came over the Russian land bridge through fucking Alaska. So you're telling me that somehow, besides the largest migration of people that there ever was, that now there's air quality problems?
Right.
They're tracking wood stoves? When when they say, oh, we're not tracking wood stoves, but we're tracking wood stoves. There's less than 1 million people in Alaska. 737,000 people.
That's
Wyoming
crazy.
has the least population compared to, everybody. But that's it. That is it. And they say, not many people live there.
Right?
So I'm having a really hard time.
So let's talk about what folk medicine was considered in 1982, shall we?
Sure.
It translates to the medicine of folks or average people. Hey, you know who that is? Me and you.
Right.
The guy down the street. Your neighbor. Your sister. Your brother. Your mom. Your dad. Whomever. Right?
Right.
And it is opposed to the medicine of professional healers.
Yeah.
And what they say is, it's obvious that the average person was healing themselves as well as their families way before any society or specialized role as a healer existed. In other words, that first caveman to scrape his thumb didn't scream for a doctor or even a witch doctor.
Wow.
Then they, it basically is, he would open it, howl, and pop his thumb. Sorry.
Oh. Okay.
Wow, I almost lost that in Leprechaun battle. Okay, moving on. So, then they say that we think of folk medicine as herbal medicine. This is very incorrect. And we're seeing a lot of that now in society now, if we're honest. We say, oh, herb and folk medicine, they're the same thing, and that is not right. Herbal healing is a facet of folk medicine tradition, but other facets would include massage, diet therapy, psychic healing, spiritualism, hygiene practices, surgical techniques, just simple things. Folk medicine is whatever works, or more precisely, whatever appears to work. Now, this can also be this can be pragmatic, practical, empirical, or or empirical medicine. Modern folk medicine in 1982, you had to know the past.
Right.
And the past means the present. So, basically, we get folk medicine because, as we say often, right, when we can find like something that is basically the same thing repetitive amounts of times, right?
Right.
At least 3 times for us. We find truth in that knowledge when that happens. And so basically it's the same thing for folk medicine. Basic products, techniques that were used for healing, whether it's animal, vegetable, mineral, even pharmaceutical derivatives. Ow. Sorry. Touching, manipulation mechanically, influencing of the mind, changing of habits of the patient. See, changing of habits that the patient has. In 1982, that was a thing. That was part of healing. Where'd that go? Because when do you go to the doctor anymore and they tell you to change any of your habits, really? Unless it's something that they're going to make something on, like, oh, I want you to take this pill, or, oh, stop smoking while we give you a prescription to help you stop smoking.
Right, and then that prescription, like Chantix, causes, like, bad dreams, causes, like, all these crazy symptoms, but you can take it to stop smoking.
Right.
And keep in mind, only, like, I think they said, like, only 20% of people it ever works for, even. So you're more likely to have a side effect than you are for it to work.
Right.
Which, that's when everybody needs to be like, no. When you're more likely to have a side effect than have whatever it is work, drug, vaccine, whatever, it's not worth it at that point. It's just not. You know, you need to have at least 70 to 80% assurance on something to really feel okay about it, honestly, in my opinion.
Oh.
Nothing is ever going to be 100%, but at least if I had 80%,
right.
I felt good. You know, only 20% chance. You know what I mean?
Right.
Very small chance. Then maybe. You know, if they said maybe vaccines are 80% effective, right? You know, maybe. But we know that percentage is like almost nil. No. So that's where I got to be like, no. You know, it's really sad to see, though, but it's the same type of ideal, you know?
Huh. Okay. So, okay. Currently, right now, in this day and age, we see the chasm between ancient and modern medicine, right? However, both rely on the same basic component. What distinguishes a folk healer from a physician is only the difference of a philosophical approach.
Right.
This is how they explained this in 82, okay? 2 primary modes of healing. Empirism, which is the search for knowledge based on practical experience rather than principles. And rationalism, which is a search for knowledge based on established laws and principles rather than on what is directly perceived.
Right.
All sciences, including medicine, can be approached from either perspective. Dominant approach in medicine in 1982 was rationalism, though many modern-day holistic practitioners and almost all folk healers are empirical perspective.
Right.
They had a term for this back then, rationalism.
Right.
We didn't even know that.
True. Well, it's something we've lost now.
No, because rationalism would be exactly what they're doing to us right now. The search for knowledge based on established laws and principles rather than on what is directly perceived. Whereas when we're talking home remedies, folk healers, what they're calling folk medicine, or ancient medicine, is based on empirical perspective, which is the search for knowledge based on practical experience rather than principles.
Right.
That's a huge difference. Rationalism has completely taken over our society currently, because what else could you explain this force mandated vaccination as, if not rationalism gone overboard? Right? Now, it also says that there are times in history where medicine and the empirical were predominant. And especially, they said, in the birth of healing arts, the empirical perspective was dominant simply because there was no established principles within health and disease. In early medicine, they called this ethnomedicine. This was
ethnomedicine. That, you know what? They classify like kratom right now as an ethnobotanical.
Okay. Right? That would put it in the ethomedical era, which is of various societies, similar to what we think of as folk medicine, empirical practices, habits, and health lore that is passed through word of mouth from generation to generation.
Correct. That's exactly what kratom was. From what I know, from what I've researched, it's classed as an ethnobotanical. I didn't know about ethnobotanicals before this, but this also allows a loophole in the law that allows you to get a lot of botanicals that you might not be able to get otherwise, even for research. So outside of the scope of kratom, ethnobotanicals are a very interesting group in class because they allow you to research, but they're kind of hidden and kept away. And now that we know that it's directly connected to folk medicine, this makes sense why they want to hide it.
Oh, gee. Okay. So when this says one of the things that we say all the time. So it says that there were very few guiding principles to ethnomedicine, and that different primitive cultures had limited communication from society to society. However, they found in unrelated cultures many of the same approaches. Very specific similarities, such as licorice being used as a healing herb with the Egyptians and being found in great quantities in 3,000-year-old tombs of the King Tut, and also of licorice being used by the ancient Chinese, and it's mentioned in herbal books printed by them in the year 3000 BC, and the Papyrus Ebers in Egyptian scroll written in 200 BC also mention using herbs such as myrrh, cumin, peppermint.
I might have to go.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like that. So, I'm going to keep you muted here for a minute.
Okay.
Just know I ain't going to be talking.
Okay. Myrrh, cumin, peppermint, caraway, fennel, all used in European tribes and still being used to that day in 1982. Garlic with parsley was being sold in capsules by herbal companies to keep sophisticated moderns with sweet breath by Babylonians in 3000 BC. Egyptians were feeding it to slaves to help build their pyramids and soldiers who were going to battle to ensure their maximum strength. Meanwhile, the Phoenicians and Vikings are filling their ships with garlics and cloves for their long voyages. Now, other than herbalism, there were other practices which have universality. Ooh, they had a term for our thing. There's a term for our thing. We just say, that we want it to be, we want to find things that match, together, right? And come together like that. And we didn't know that it actually had a terminology. I know she's missing this, but universality. Sweating. Many cultures discovered that sweating often help heal many diseases. This is why Delaware and Crow Indians had sweat baths, as well as Hawaiians, who were thousands of miles away with no ability for real communication. Massage was considered art in Burma and Hawaii, as well as the Orient. So, I would like to know when massage went from being an art to a skill. I want to know when we required, when we decided that we needed to put all these rules and regulations and things on it. I think that was just, again, for our government and everyone to make more money off of an art. They also found that the American Indians, as well as Africans and Australians and Fijians, were making incisions to stimulate health. African tribes, as well as Greek tribes, were using enemas and in many of these, they were centered around emotionalism and spiritualism. So again, this goes back to what we've been saying, which we've been knowledge blocked, we're going to call it, or information blocked. I like knowledge blocked. Knowledge blocked, we're knowledge blocked on, but we say this all the time. In order to have complete health and wellness, you need to have wellness completely on every level. That is spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and then physically. So even back in 82 and way even prior to that, they were saying the same thing. In primitive culture, there was no distinction between all of these that we just mentioned. They were just part of treating you. They didn't treat your physical without treating your spiritual, mental, and emotional. So now they had witch doctors who dealt more with spiritual than physical. And they were found all around, from Africa to the East Indies, to American Indian tribes, to pre-Christian Europe. Shamans did trances. They had objects that were supposedly magic that they used on patients. They would be able to pluck offending objects out of patients' bodies, such as pebbles, twigs. They would chant, they would dance, and they would wail. When they're talking about this mysteriously pluck offending objects, this is what we have talked about in the past as psychic surgery. There was, very interesting. Medical diagnoses back then were known as divination, which is interpreting results of an obituary situation. Isn't that flippin' interesting?
Yeah, that was quite interesting, actually.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie.
Did you hear that? Or are you talking about your situation being interesting?
No, I mean, I don't know if I heard the last part, but in general, hearing about, how they were treated now and then, just thinking about the comparison in my mind, very interesting.
Right, because we've been saying it, and everybody's like, you guys are quacks, but this goes back way into our DNA. Our ancestors are telling us this from our own DNA. We are awakening to that, where others are still closed off. Oh, and here is something that I think you miss. Okay, so you know how we're always like, we want to find matching information in like several places, right?
Right.
That could have no real connection.
Right.
Dude, this didn't come out of anywhere. Did you know that there's a term for this and it's in here?
What is it?
Universality.
Oh. Okay.
Practices that seem to have certain universality. And what they mean by that is basically cultures and societies that back then couldn't really have any way of communication, but yet they were seeing the same forms of treatment for the same things in these places.
Right.
They call it universality. So this whole time, G, there's been a definition there's been this thing that that defines exactly what we've been saying.
Right. That's interesting.
And
that's good to know, because that means we were drawn to it,
through our DNA, our ancestors are leading us.
Yeah, they are.
Okay. Right? And then I think you heard this ending. The form of medical diagnosis back then was divination.
Right.
Which was the interpreting of results of an obituary situation.
Right.
Like, for instance, Delaware Indians put people in would take people's medicine and put them in containers of warm water. If it floated, then they were expected to recover. Then in Burma, they called them a medical diviner, would write down words, numbers as he chanted and shook seeds in a thing. And then the position of those seeds that spilled from the hand, he could choose appropriate words and numbers that would determine therapy. This is ruin casting or bone casting or there's many things like this. So they called it empirical primitive ethnomedicine, based on modern folk medicine. Also considered a recurrent philosophy of vitalism, being the belief that life is unique and that it possesses qualities that cannot be defined in simple terms of anatomy and physical makeup. Oh my God, G. Yeah, another term that has been around for shit we've been talking about that, again, we didn't know. Now, there came a point where healing kind of went two separate ways. This is because Greeks formed medical thought in a formalized manner. So they got very clear differentiation from empirical and rational perspective. This formed frameworking of current dichotomy between folk and or holistic and technological and modern approach to medicine. Now, ethnomedical approaching was of primitive societies, strongly of empirical nature, but no form of unionization of empiricism had been made till around 400 BC with Hippocrates. Now, Hippocrates, that's funny that they would bring him up, right? So, he synthesized that what we believed for many centuries, that disease was a mysterious incident that occurred in a mysterious universe. However, the body had power to eliminate disease, but only if laws of universe were adhered to. But the laws themselves are mysterious. Hippocratic physicians believe, or did, that disease was just a normal part of the ebb and flow of the universe. Symptoms of diseases were actual signals of the movement towards health.
Okay. Oh, I didn't even know I was muted and I was talking and then you paused and I thought you heard me. Think about that. I've been saying stuff and you didn't even hear me at all.
Yeah, no.
The Hippocratic Oath, let's think about that. They don't say it anymore. And that's when you said did. And I swear to God you heard me. Obviously you did, because that's why we've been so best friends. Because you literally stopped and changed yourself. I was like, no, they don't anymore, but they don't take the Hippocratic Oath anymore. And like, you didn't skip a beat like you heard me said, well, did. Yes. Yes. I totally thought you heard me. That's why
I did not.
Like, no, but isn't that interesting how in sync we were, that you literally stopped right after I said it, like we were both talking?
Right.
You heard me almost telepathically say that? Like, no. Girl, you know they don't take the oath no more. Like...
So, we owe... Okay, so you remember how we say all the time... Wait, did you miss that?
No, I didn't miss nothing. I heard everything you said.
Did you hear vitalism?
Yeah, I did hear vitalism.
Okay. So my thing is, remember how we've been like, gee, somebody untaught us what we should know?
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Yep.
It was fucking Hippocrates.
Damn it, Hippocrates. See, look.
Because he's the one... Okay, we used to believe that, disease was mysterious. It was just an instant that happened within the mysterious universe, and that our body just mysteriously had the power to eliminate these problems.
Right.
And Hippocrates comes along and goes, oh yeah, that's right, but only if it adheres to the laws of the universe. Fuck you, you just limited me.
Right.
I was unlimited, and you put a limit on me.
Right.
And then you taught it generation to generation to generation to generation.
So they forgot what it even amounts to be healthy, and now believe you can inject health.
Right.
Outside of the laws of the universe. This now makes sense, though, because now they went too far.
Right.
Away from the originator.
And they didn't back then. Hippocratic physicians saw symptoms as not to be resisted, as forces that were not to be resisted, but encouraged. Because this is what would precede you to wellness. So, if you had a hot fever, they would encourage bringing it on hotter.
Which makes sense. They always told you to get in bed, cover up, sweat it out.
Right.
Remember that as kids? We were always told,
yes.
Sweat it out.
And for a cold fever, you would cool them down.
Right.
This was considered the law of similars. Furthermore, they believed that you couldn't properly deal with disease by just dealing with isolated symptoms one at a time. You could only do it when you worked every aspect of a patient simultaneously. Now, there's a conservative tone, or was a conservative tone, to the Hippocratic teaching. They believed that healing was basically a mysterious function, not governed by principles that could be defined nor easily manipulated. Best reactions were often no reaction. Hippocratic physicians would wait very patiently for the moment of crisis or change, and then would influence the healing crisis in positive ways. Then the belief that health could best be achieved by living within the accord with inexplicable laws of the universe. They also stressed...
That's probably why people live. They wonder why everybody's dying all the time.
Right.
Wonder why when you go to a doctor you die. This is
oh
why.
My God, what is my most famous thing whenever we talk about anything? I'm always like, balance, G, right?
Right. Balance.
Well, back then...
They were balanced.
Actually, it says They stress the concept of internal balance.
Yeah.
After
So
Hippocrates.
Let's think about that. The whole literal methodology of how medicine was practiced has been changed.
Yes.
In 30, 40 years, let's say.
Yes.
Beginning from 1980, since I'm born at the end of 80, and, so let's say 40 years. As long as you've been alive.
40 years.
So, yeah, for real. Like, literally from the moment you were born.
Right.
Been a whole different world. And now we're in this new world. But this makes sense why we're struggling at medicine right now.
So, now, after Hippocrates comes along a group of Greek physicians. They were known as Synodines. And they founded rational school of thought. Now, their theories were basically antithetical to those of Hippocrates.
Oh, the antithesis?
Yes. They composed those held by most current medical practitioners. They believed that healing was achieved by opposing systems. The concept that certain immutable laws of biology exist, can be learned, and can be used to heal all people the same way with similar, if not identical, procedures. They did not believe in vitalism. They only have a mechanical view of the universe. So forces do not exist if they cannot be felt, seen, or clearly identified. They brought on this rational viewpoint, which then became adopted by the dominated Romans. So then Romans influenced medicine to another degree in a very similar manner. They influenced the development of law. Since both practices were institutionalized, stratified, compartmentalized, and formalized. Medicine then, for the first time, became a legal system that was highly scrutinized. Did you know?
And that's when it goes back to the change that we just talked about with the definition of, because it has to do with going with laws instead of what you know.
Exactly. Do you know what RX on the prescription bottle stands for? Do you know where it came from?
I do not.
Me either. So we're today old.
Right.
And we find out that it's the symbol for Jupiter.
Is it the destroyer?
And all Roman doctors were required to put this on prescription to show allegiance to official state religion. It meant, take thou in...
Jews in Greek mythology.
Right, and it meant to take thou in the name of Jupiter.
And it was one of the most common symbols in the Roman army.
So then we hit 2nd century Greece, or Greek, right?
Right.
And these...
Oh, did you know that people sacrificed to Jupiter?
Yes.
they worshipped him.
Right.
And sheep in particular were sacrificed to Jupiter. Isn't that a joke?
Hey, you know what? I'm going to be freaking worshiping the hell out of Jupiter this next year.
Like,
I'm just saying. Get ready for some sacrifices. If you into that, brother, you got them coming. I got you covered, bro.
But think about that. Think about the symbolism of that. Seriously. We always talk about everybody's sheep, everybody's
Well,
this,
here's the
everybody's
thing.
that.
Here's the thing about sacrifices.
Really think about that, though. That most commonly, sheep were sacrificed to this god.
Lambs. Yes.
No, it says
sheep.
No,
right.
It literally says sheep were sacrificed to
Well,
Jupiter.
I mean, in general, sheep and lamb were used as sacrifices through all religions.
I get that, but what do we call people who ain't woke?
Oh,
what
yeah.
do we call people who are walking
Sure.
through life asleep?
Sure.
Sheep.
Mm-hmm.
And then they require this to be put on every prescription that a doctor gives, knowing damn well what are they doing then? Sacrificing the sheep to Jupiter.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Bullshit.
And the way that they say, take thou in the name of Jupiter. Is that not like a...
Yeah, they're supposed to take thou in the name of Jupiter. That's what their Hippocratical states that they're supposed to do. Take the sheep to the slaughter.
Yep. Okay. Now we're going to go to 2nd century Greek.
Right.
And these Greek physicians were known as Galen. They were also rational medicine.
Okay.
Now, Hippocrates was to empirical folk-based medicine. Okay. What Galen was to Greek physicians. Okay. So Galen came up with this theory that was based on mechanical law of anatomy, logic, and physiology.
Okay.
Now, he's the one that we can say thank you to for saying that doctors should be guided by theory rather than observation.
Right.
So, Galen then was the one that placed all these special emphasis on proper functions of independent organs.
Right.
Such as heart, lungs, liver.
Right.
He's the one that says that...
When before that, it was a more holistic approach with mind, body, spirit.
Right.
Awareness.
Right. He believed that these were life's well springs instead of some indefinable vital force supposedly surging through the cosmos.
Could be, though. I don't know. Hard to say. Honestly, when you really think about that statement, that ain't too far from true when you really think about it.
What?
About how, it could be some mysterious force.
No. He was saying he was going against that.
No, but what I'm saying is that that's not too crazy to think that could be possible, though.
No, because all prior to this, that's how they were doing it.
Right, and people were somehow living, just saying.
And longer.
People were living. Yeah, true that.
Okay. So, Galen also...
If you think about it, after him, everybody started dying early, you know what I mean? Like, think about history, what they told you people would die.
Oh, so Galen's also the asshole that differentiated lay practitioner from folk healer and physicians, advocating them to an elevated special role.
See, nope, yeah. See, why was he so special? How come he decided that they get that role? See, this is bull. How did this all get? See, look, this is how we need to realize history is created, you guys.
And as a single person, Galen was able.
Like, follow me. This is what I say, and then now the whole world follows that shit. We got to be aware of how history gets created, because how did this one guy become so all-knowing and powerful? This sounds like some BS. When everybody had like the same level of education, which was compared to what we say it would be primitive, but somehow they knew all these great philosophical things. Okay, so this crap, this dude used his own ego to push forward, and we've been using his narrative ever since. It's bullshit. We should probably walk away from a man who was created thousands. You know what I mean? We're talking 1,500 years ago.
As a single person, he was able to determine the very course of current medicine, as well as fundamentally set viewpoints that became majority opinion for today's healing professionalism.
Right. And become law. He set the precedent, and now it became law. Let's think about it. He elevated positions and people to a new role and status, and now they're legally protected, therefore giving away rational medicine, because the rationality comes from laws and ideals, not from observation. So it gave the way for this rational medicine. Somehow this is the smart way to be. From one guy. Who is this man? Why is he so important? How come we don't hear about him in medicine? How come we only hear about Hippocrates?
Yeah.
Let's really think about that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I have huge problems with this dude now. Like, let's really think about that. Do we think that our future should be determined by one man? I mean, really, truly. Like, that's really stretching it. And a man that lived so long ago, would we have better knowledge now today? That's ignorant.
And who took us from knowledge to theory.
Yeah, to theory, you guys. So we just, what we could see, what we knew, was erased with what could be.
Right.
What could be. That's how we got shit like herd immunity. What could be. Theory.
Right.
Theories can be disproven. The theories are not set in stone.
Right.
Therefore, why have we followed this for the last 1,500 years?
Right.
I mean, I don't know what BC he lived in, but I'm assuming he lived sometime in BC. He was Roman, you said, right?
No. Galen is Greek.
Yeah, so they lived at least that long ago. At least. 500 BC, even before that, Greeks were and Romans. Shit. So,
now,
I'm not good at timelines like that far back, because we really haven't went into Greek or Roman history.
We're going to skip ahead now to the
That's one we might want to look into, though.
Right. Now we're going to skip ahead because this is the next big jump, right?
Right.
To 1500s.
Right.
And we're going to talk about Parsilius, who's a Swiss physician. Now, he made a huge impact on medicine in the 1500s. But he adhered to...
Theophrastus von Hohenheim.
What?
His name was Theophrastus von Hohenheim. Paracelsus, born Theophrastus von Hohenheim.
Okay.
Was a Swiss physician, alchemist, and astrologer of the German Renaissance.
Right. Now, he adhered to empirical, vitalistic ideas of Hippocrates. So he went throughout Europe, and he researched folk remedies, and he lauded folk healers, compared them favorably to celebrated colleagues, believed in healing agent properties, proven effective, such as herbs, as well as some that were less effective, like virgin's breath. He did believe that the universe was primarily spiritual.
Right.
That stars and planets and sun existed in space, but that they existed in forces within people's bodies as well as in plants and metals. he had two medicinal approaches.
Right.
A conventional herbal approach, which for the most part is considered very valid, and then one that was purely just based upon his beliefs on the cosmological significance of various plants and minerals.
Interesting. Guess what this ass created? Chemotherapy. Yep. He's an alchemist, and so he learned about metals that were in the earth. Because at the time, only alchemists created gold.
Right.
Very interesting.
Right. Truth.
He wrote later he wondered how all the high colleges managed to produce so many high acids.
Now, so we're in these, managed to produce such high acids. Is that what you said? High acids?
Yeah, high acids, because he was upset that the traditional attitudes of schoolmen, the universities do not teach all things. So
right? How long have we been saying that shit?
Right, but listen, he wrote, so a doctor must seek out old wives, gypsies, sorcerers, wandering tribes, old robbers, and such outlaws, and take lessons from them. A doctor must be a traveler. Knowledge is experience.
Uh-huh.
He held that the crude language of the innkeeper, the barber, and the teamster had more real dignity and common sense than the dry scholasticism of Aristotle, Galen of Pergamum, and Avicenna, some of the most recognized medical authorities of the day.
Now, meanwhile, in 1500s in Europe, right? So we've got this great dude who's doing our
he supposedly graduated from the University of Vienna in 1510. And then he was allowed to go to the University of Ferrara in Italy, where he was free to express the rejection of the prevailing view that the stars and planets controlled all the parts of the human body. He received his doctoral degree from the University of Ferrara in 1516 and is presumed to have begun using the name Paracelsus, above or beyond Celsus, at about 12. The new name reflected the fact that he regarded himself as even greater than Aulus Cornelius Celsus, the renowned 4th century Roman medical writer.
See?
Then he became a surgeon in a war, in the Netherlandish War. And then he was held captive by the Tatars, escaped to Lithuania, went south into Hungary. In 1521, he again served as an army surgeon in Italy. He went to Egypt, Arabia, the Holy Land, and finally Constantinople, which is now known as modern day, I believe, either Iran or Syria is where Constantinople is. And most learned exponents of practical alchemy and effective means of medical treatment, but also more important to discover the latent forces of nature and how they are used. He wrote, "He is who, born in imagination, discovers the latent forces of nature. Behind the stars that are established, there is yet another imagination that begets a new star and a new heaven."
Well, that would be his astral and nature approach.
Right.
Now, meanwhile, while we've got this great dude doing this in the 1500s, right?
Right.
Over in Europe, okay, so now we're starting to get closer to us, right?
Right.
Meanwhile, in Europe, the rational school of healing starts predominating directly after Renaissance.
Right.
Now, there's quite a few innovations as well as discoveries that did propel the trend, such as the discovery of the circulation of blood and bacteria by Koch and William Harvey.
Right.
Okay. Now, then The microscope was used
Hmm.
by Leeuwenhoek.
You know what's interesting? I just found a word that we didn't know
Okay.
that's really important.
Okay.
Because apparently Paracelsus was a Catholic, right?
Right.
And they threatened him with excommunication.
Mm-hmm.
Because they closely tied him with Martin Luther, the man who created Lutheranism, who stepped away from the Catholic Church.
Okay.
Okay, and Lutheranism is very close to Catholicism, but with a few things. We don't believe in saints. We don't follow that.
Right.
We believe people could be saintly, but we don't worship them, right?
Right.
They have a place. They're good people, but we don't worship them. Also, we wouldn't do catechism. We would maybe only do them before confirmation. We wouldn't do them as daily like Catholics would.
Right.
There's some similarity. We don't believe in the Pope, and the Pope controls us. But
right.
we do believe in tenets of the Catholic Church. So it's very interesting. But here's the deal. They tried to kick him out.
Right.
They don't know what happened to many of his books.
Interesting.
They started burning the books of Avicenna, the Muslim prince of physicians, and those of Greek physician Galen.
Mm-hmm. Well, they should have burned Galen's shit.
Right. But here's the deal. They were put, his books were placed in the Index Expurgatorius. This is the books that were fucking kicked out of the Catholic Church. We gotta go look that up.
Okay. Write it down so we'll look it up.
Yeah, we didn't know that, but I think that's important because they said the passages of text which are considered immoral or against the Catholic religion are removed. Paracelsus also lectured and wrote in German rather than in Latin.
Now, the microscope suddenly is now used to identify microorganisms. And then the practice of listening to the chest was developed.
Right.
We also got blood pressure readings then.
Right.
We finally recognized bile as a digester of food and not a mysterious essential element.
Right. Because I'm sure when they did autopsies, they probably saw, since it was in everybody, they thought it was like, really important, not that it was like a product of excrement. You know what I mean? Like, I could see that.
Mechanistic, mechanical, rational medicine became abounding in its promise.
Yeah.
Then all of science, after the Renaissance, this is our rational, mechanistic approach, really, really started dominating.
Well, yeah, because apparently towards the peak of his career, Paracelsus started doing lectures, right? And he was stressing like the healing power of nature. And at the time, he was denouncing methods for treating wounds, such as padding with moss or dried dung that prevented natural draining. And he said the wounds must drain. He insisted, for if you prevent the infection, nature will heal the wound all by herself.
Right.
He also attacked many other malpractices of the time, including worthless pills, salves, infusions, balsams, electuaries, fumigants, and drenches.
Mm-hmm.
And by 1528, they basically excommunicated him.
Right.
Doctors, apothecaries, and magistrates no longer wanted to deal with him. He used to have to travel during the night, and he traveled for 8 years. And he wrote new treatises. With the publication of Der Grossen Wundarznisse, the Great Surgery Book, he restored and even extended the revered reputation he had earned in Basel. He became wealthy and was sought by royalty.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. He died himself in 1541 under mysterious circumstances at the White Horse Inn in Salzburg, where he had taken up an appointment under the Prince Archbishop Duke Ernst of Bavaria. He wrote a clinical description of syphilis, which said he could, you're going to love this. He maintained the disease could be successfully treated by carefully measured doses of mercury.
Interesting.
taken internally. He stated that the miner's disease, silicosis, resulted from inhaling metal vapors and was not a punishment for sin administered by mountain spirits. He was the first to declare that when given in small doses, what makes a man ill also cures him, in anticipation of the modern practice of homeopathy. Paracelsus is said to have cured many persons in the plague-stricken town of Sturzig in the summer of 1534 by administering a daily pill made of bread that containing a minute amount of the patient's excreta that he had removed on a needlepoint. Paracelsus was the first to connect goiter with minerals, especially in lead, in drinking water. He prepared and used new chemical remedies, including those containing mercury, sulfur, iron, and copper sulfate, thus uniting medicine with chemistry, as the first London Pharmacopoeia in 1618 indicates. Paracelsus actually, in fact, contributed substantially to the rise of modern medicine, including psychiatric treatment. The psychologist Carl Jung wrote of that, we see in Paracelsus not only a pioneer in the domains of chemical medicine, but also in those of an empirical psychological healing science.
Right. Now, going forward into the 1600s now,
right.
Now we're going to get the influence of deductive reasoning, which was done by René Descartes.
Oh, yes, map writer.
And
René
he
Descartes.
affected not just medicine, but mathematics, physics, astronomy, and social science, such as government.
It's interesting because one of his most famous quotes that I think we need to keep pushing is, the art of healing comes from nature, not from the physician. Therefore, the physician must start from nature with an open mind.
Yes. Now, by the time we fast forward to the American Revolution,
right,
the rational approach has become the only really one accepted approach for formalized healing profession.
Which is ridiculous, because how did we lose all that? We just lost right there, the American Revolution. We lost all that great history. That's when we lost it, you guys. We wanted to know when we lost it. Now we know where we lost it in history.
Now,
the American Revolution.
It didn't mean that folk medicine died.
No.
Okay.
But it was probably highly strained. Because
right.
now you think about it, and you think about, let's even think about like the 1800s Wild Wild West movies, right? All of those had like a doctor in town, and everybody went to the doctor, and nobody was really a healer then, even. So it only took about 100 years to get everybody hooked on this doctor idea, where they didn't have to think for themselves and pass on remedies and became more powerful than everybody else around them. But the predecessors, like Paracelsus, said, you need to go talk to old wives. You need to go talk to gypsies. You need to talk to healers. You need to talk to these people. They know what they're doing.
Right.
So it's very interesting.
So when we go forward to about 1776, now we're going to come to America.
Yes, we are, because that was when America was founded. 1776, okay. Yeah.
So when America came and folk medicine came to America, there was a split, a definite, very distinct split between physician and folk healer. Right. There was a rich heritage of folk healing with the Indians, but this was quickly this was actively and quickly discharged through college-educated colonial doctors. Now, one of those doctors being Dr. Benjamin Rush. He was one of these early American doctors, but he studied Indian healing techniques, and he concluded, and we quote, "We have no discoveries in the materia medica to hope for from the Indians in North America. It would be a reproach to our schools of physic if modern physicians were not more successful than Indians, even in the treatment of their own diseases." Now, meanwhile, back on the ranch in England at the same time,
Right.
they're developing medical hierarchy with layering. And they're saying physicians are at the top, surgeons that had doctorates in medicine, then drug dispensaries, then practical nurses, and then at the bottom were surgeons that could only be certified by a company of barber surgeons who were required, in order to get a license, to pass a simple 15-minute examination with a court examiner and pay 5 shilling fees.
What?
Now, these surgeons were looked down on by physicians, but they could practice medicine on ships. Now, did you hear that, G?
No.
Surgeons were beneath physicians.
Interesting.
And to be a surgeon, all you needed to be a surgeon, G, all you needed to do was take a 15-minute exam with a court of examiners and pay 5 shillings.
That's it, huh? That's all you needed?
And this got you your certification through the company of barber surgeons. Barber surgeons. Oh my God, we were today old when we found out where Sweeney Todd came from.
No, I did know that the barber surgeons existed. Okay, check it out. There was an old Saturday Night Live skit from the 70s that had Theodorus of York. And this was the skit that they played for a long time. And it was Steve Martin was the doctor. And they used to have like Gilda Radner or Jane Curtin or, one of those guys come out. And they would be like, Jane Curtin was the physician's assistant. And they would be like, bloodletting and this and that. I found out why this was a thing. Because apparently during the alchemist days, they believed in Paracelsus believed in the Greek concept of the 4 elements, but also introduced the idea on another level that the cosmos is fashioned from 3 spiritual forces: mercury, sulfur, and salt. Well, now the tree of Prima, before that, nobody believed in that, right? But so then they believed, about the Philosopher's Stone and all this other crap and blah, 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 and blah, 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 right?
Mm-hmm.
But what it comes down to is that it's basically they figured out. Looking for it right here. I just literally read it, and I was gonna cut in and say something about this because okay. And what will sound very familiar who those who have looked into alchemy or listened to this is that the substances were not the simple substances we recognize today, but rather broad principles that gave every object its inner essence and outward form. So they believed that transmutation was turning a weak soul into a healthy one, right? And at the time, I guess, where is this? This is gonna bother me now. They literally just read the answer to your goddamn question. Continue, G.
Okay.
I'm gonna find this now, because that's gonna drive me crazy.
The
Apothecary.
Yeah, thank you. Considered themselves highly sophisticated as the nation's official drug dispensers at this time.
Right.
But little did they know then that they only had a few short decades and then they would be elevated out of grocer's company. Now, prior to that...
Okay, here we go. To up the point that Hippocrates' view of sickness was held. That means illness was caused by one of the four humors being out of balance. Medicine was therefore eating certain foods and purging or bloodletting, etc. Paracelsus challenged by stating that sometimes illness could be caused by outside factors.
Right.
So it's interesting because, like from that, before that moment, though, we believed that it was like something you eat. But he started believing that instead of these four humors being out of balance, that some things could also be chemical, like it was a mineral imbalance, which we do know now to be true.
Right.
But what I don't understand is why no one ever combined the two.
Right.
Why was he so against the other and vice versa?
Right.
Why it would have been interesting to see where medicine went had both of those principles, like even some of the astrology that we knew to control the time. It'd be interesting to see how that would turn out if we would have, done it all together.
Now, before they were elevated out, they were restricted basically to just the unioning of peppers and spices. Then when they became licensed, they were still just able to compound the very same herbs as the folk healers. Then comes along the American medical system,
right,
which considers itself both reasonable as well as intellectual, but they were very crude in their methods and more quote-unquote scientific than folk healers. So, there grew this fondness for Benjamin Rush, right, back in the time. And then his colleagues all accounted for this very high incident of mercury poisoning.
Right.
But they did manage to save a few, if any, real lives. Now, like you were just talking about,
it's also the dose that makes it a poison.
Well, they were also very into the bloodletting.
Right.
And they believed that it was imbued their viewpoint on bloodletting, I should say, was based basically on dramatic statuses that only really relieved few fevers. Still, physicians of that time had an unalterable effectiveness of therapy because of a superiority that they single-handedly took above folk healers simply because the folk healer lacked a university education.
Right. Hey, and this is what we've been saying the whole time. Why are they against us? We know shit that works. What's wrong with them?
Then, this gets the stratification of American medicine, right?
Okay.
And folk medicine remains still vital in the medical structure. So, one of the main reasons for that is that there weren't enough university educatedly trained doctors.
Right.
Okay. So, back then, even if they did have the surplus of doctors, they still would not have been accepted by the Indians.
Right.
Because Indians had their own traditional healing ways. Okay. They also wouldn't have been accepted by the Orientals, who were immigrating in huge numbers by the mid 1800s. Okay. They also wouldn't have been accepted by the Europeans, who had their own ageless faith in remedies. Now, disdained remedies these may have been by the medical intelligentsia, they were often more effective than the physician's efforts.
Right.
Now, little, if any, of the American medical scholars had any kind of respect for Indian remedies or Indian herbs, and they studied drugs and then categorized them. So, the Indians were to add 59 drugs to the current pharmaceutical smorgasbord that he created. Now, there were books that were produced by these scholars of men that did this. They were Indian Doctor's Dispensary, which was produced in 1813.
Right.
The Indian Guide to Health, which was produced in 1836.
Right.
And then there was one in 1838 that was North American Indian Doctor. Now, Indian healing philosophy was completely empirical and staunchly vitalistic. The Indians, in a tribe manner, had no distinction significantly to the soul and body. They had the law of similars. So, rather than suppressing symptoms, they would address in the social and life component of the disease, and then with its obvious physical symptoms. So, basically, they believed that in order to relieve any symptoms of illness, they relied on herbs, sweating, spiritual counseling, fasting, bathing, laxatives, and enemas. They believed that this could be done through a medicine man, but also, and often, just the individual person. Medicine men really only came to visit sick with a little doctor's bag or mystical bag.
You know, Paracelsus said, let the sick be your textbook, and I believe, let the deathbed be your practice.
Right? See?
Very interesting. This Paris also dude becomes more interesting as I keep digging into his information. I'm not going to lie.
Right?
He's a very fascinating man. He came up with a lot of different things about medicine that we still use today. Other things we ignored, like how he didn't believe that at the time, though, let's think about this. People believed that mental illness was demonic possession. He said that there are treatable maladies that could be treated through chemical means.
Right.
That's where we got mental health treatment from.
See?
But he also was an alcoholic, though.
See?
So, just that. So you
Now,
see what I mean? Like, some of the things he did, I see where they just took it, like, and brought it to the extreme. And, you know, it's interesting. I didn't realize this, but I guess the Badinus manuscript was the Codex Barbineri Latin 241.
okay.
Was, I guess, one of our first books in America about medicine. So just think about that. How long even in the Americas as we know it, medicine existed from the 1500s on.
Right. Now,
that's important to think about.
So, they had their little, things, and in these bags of the medicine men, were often drums or rattles, which they would often refer to as a soul snatcher.
Right.
So that they could bring back the soul of a patient. Hollow bones, so that they could suck out articles that were intruding within the body. They often used items that they thought were magical, such as eagle's claws and dried mice and seagull wings. Now, to us, these may seem nonsensical and useless, but they're equivalent in this time to the white man's black bag,
right,
which is patent medicine, by the way.
Right.
Now, the first decade within the 1800s, that patient medicine era began. This was actually mixing of herbs with laudable enterprise. They did this by degenerating very quickly into crass commercialism.
Right.
Now, this is integrated in the era with Dr. Samuel Thompson, who began investigating and writing about Indian and colonial herbal remedies, and then began patenting those remedies.
Yeah, because it's interesting. They talk about in this book, the Bad DS manuscript, it was an herbal, so it dealt with the pharmacological treatment of diseases, not dealing with surgery, right?
Right.
And they had it interesting in the 1940s. They somehow got this book and brought it to the Vatican, but they ended up bringing it back to Mexico in 1990, apparently. But they talked about many different things, like, and some of them only have, like, native names that we know now. But they had many different narcotics, bone setting, tobacco. They had it all listed out what they would use. And I wonder if some of these things were then taken to be then mass-produced.
Okay, G, right here it is. And
they talk about even the nopal cactus,
yes,
to reduce swelling, even way back then in the 1500s.
So check this out. That thing that we've been saying, hey, when did snake oil become a thing?
Right.
It's apparently the 1800 G.
Yep.
Because Dr. Samuel Thompson, right, you heard that he stole the Indian colonial herbal remedies and made them and started patenting them.
That's what, and this would be like from here. That's what I'm saying. That's interesting because this Bad-News manuscript, I'm sure he probably stole from. I'm sure. Because
so
they had every different type of crystal, every different type of
other people.
Stimulants, because they said that one of the earliest tonic stimulants introduced to Europe in the 16th century was guanicum sanctum, known to the Indians as Holoxon. Menards were used referred to as use for the poxy, dropsy, for the shortness of breath, for the falling sickness, and for other ailments of widely diverse nature. So it sounds like, even from that, the way they wrote it.
So, check this shit out. Wonderful world of modern medicine right here, right?
Right?
So he goes and copies these herbal remedies from the folk healers.
Right.
And you know, like you're backing up right now. He freaking patents them, right?
Right,
and then
were taken to Europe and incorporated into the pharmacopoeias of the 16th,
and then all of these people start copying his prescriptions.
Right.
So then they start adding alcohol, opium, cocaine, and marijuana.
Right, but see, that comes from these Aztecs, who I guess had some of the best of the herbal remedies for narcotics and analgesics.
We're talking about it here within, you know, the America. So what happened is this became a very deep-seated practice, you know, dark, ugly, of snake oil, basically, because it's they had vague and glorious claims,
trying to make them seem like they were something special,
when really they were useless placebos that intoxicated you.
Right.
Okay. Then in 20th century, this mechanical medical thing starts up again.
Right.
Okay. Renaissance continued to multiply from post-Renaissance era. Now, dude that did the bacteria,
right,
Pasteur's,
right,
began promoting this idea that bacteria is and was the cause of all disease.
And that makes sense because Sanofi Pasteur makes vaccines.
Because you could see, mark, and eliminate.
Right.
Then we have T.J. Morton, who supposedly comes up with this safe anesthetic that's effective and can be used for surgery.
Right. Which the Aztecs had already came out with bunches of things for surgery.
But now this makes surgery way more appealing to the Americans, to us.
Right.
Then Lister comes along, and he makes, okay, so that smell that we smell all the time in the hospitals, this man is who's responsible for that. Interesting, his name is Lister. Because he developed antiseptic carbolic spray. Then Rontgen comes along with X-rays, thus able to let us set broken bones, and promoting that research in human body can be seen, identified, and manipulated. Surgical techniques were like a continuing basis, a learn as we go. Analyzing things like blood chemistry started. Hypodermic needles and syringes and their usefulness became known and established. By this time now, doctors have to go to years of medical school. They're powerful forces in the community. They're accepted as intellectually and economically powerful. And then they continued this through World War I of having this benevolent aura of healing, they still believed that it was crude to receive a direct payment for their service. Doctors were only actually properly paid by leaving sealed envelopes on the corners of their desks at the end of a social event. Did you hear that, Shiji?
I did.
The funk on. So, a great important fact in general folk medicine occurred in 1910. Abraham Flexner was then sponsored by a fledgling American Medical Association and the Carnegie Foundation, had an all expense paid by Rockefeller family D,
Right.
and was issued a supremely important Flexner report. Now, this partially perhaps became the Rockefeller and Carnegie family investing moment in young pharmaceutical drug industry. They right then became partially they did this partially, I'm sorry. They did this partially due to rational mechanical anti-symptomatic approach that they provided in the Flexner report, advocating a strong pharmaceutical surgical brand of medicine.
Interesting.
Flexner wanted anti-symptom approaches to healing to be taught within medical schools, but he wanted exclusions of broad-based health-stimulating procedures that were being used by many doctors and almost all folk healers. Flexner report advocated only new courses within pharmacologically to add to the curriculum within the medical school. So, basically, theoretical research suddenly got more credibility than observed clinical phenomena. So, pretty much overnight, America adopted the Flexner report by almost every medical school.
How did that happen?
And probably not coincidentally, the ones that voluntarily adopted these recommendations. That is a completely theoretical report, by the way. Only because they were favored by Rockefeller and Carnegie. Rockefeller and Carnegie families. And their charitable foundations. At that moment, herbology, natural healing, and any type of nutrition was abandoned. However, all was not lost yet. It wasn't, although mechanical school of physicians was dominating, empirical vitalistic branches still existed. They were, however, being driven drastically into disfavor by majority opinion.
Right.
And due to the fact that most folk healers are in like isolated remote parts of the country, since medicine still wasn't highly regulated out in that country, and still not as regulated as it is now, especially. But they weren't really under any intense or particular legal scrutiny. However, there were some more urban organized branches of empirical schools of thought that weren't nearly as lucky. Now, when we went through homeopaths, the leaders drew heavy fire. Hahnemann died in mid-1800s. He was the one that founded method of practices based on the law of similars. So that said, curing is done by mimicking and simulating symptoms. This was achieved by various substances being minutely diluted to stimulate the body's own immune response. Homeopathy was being considered at this time in American medical authorities to be a significant threat to scientific pharmaceutical medicine. Even greater a threat than herbology or Indian or Oriental techniques of the folk healers. In mid-1800s, homeopathy was stridently being attacked in New York State medical societies and being called a form of quackery. American Medical Association was formed, and it refused to grant membership to any state association unless they stated that no homeopaths were within their organizations. Ain't that some bullshit, G?
Ain't it?
Osteopathy and chiropractic were begun right before the 1900s. Osteopathy was that form of medicine that emphasized manipulation. This was created by Andrew Taylor Still. Daniel David Palmer, who was just a lay spiritualist in Iowa and a grocer, took that and made chiropractic, which, as we know, is the proper functioning of nerves from the spinal column Both therapies both therapies mimic and are in basic accord with Oriental acupuncture, which was being used in the 19th century in America by Chinese immigrants. Many osteopaths denounced chiropractics, and chiropractics in turn sneered at homeopaths and jeered at herbalists, and so on.
Right.
The only exclusion to this seemed to be the elected physicians. Eclectic physicians, I'm sorry. Now, they were the ones that were allied with the best of the folk healers and used multiplicities of approaches. Eclecticism was whatever worked was the right approach. Now, the eclectic physicians really began flourishing in the 1900s at the same time as the philosophical schools. And they included herbology, hygiene, homeopathy, structural and emotional therapies, surgeries, drugs, exercise, and spiritualism within this collection of modalities. CG, I knew I'd been doing the right thing this whole time. I've been mixing a whole lot of these together, learning all of these things that I've learned, and I've been doing the right thing.
Right.
Now, oh shit. So, from all of this, moving forward, they then took Indians, Orientals, and Europeans and their research and formed ethnomedicines. So this collage of medical doctors seemed to be completely left alone by medical authorities. And the homeopaths also. And some very early chiropractors. Only because they were not a concerted group and they weren't uniformed together, so they didn't see them as a immediate or identifiable threat. So the eclectic physicians began exploring and then categorizing all of our folk healing methods, especially the ones for applying herbs for specific diseases. They even went so far as to make 3 books attempting to classify these folk healing practices. Compendium of Botanic Materia Medica by Samuel Wagman. Pocket Manual of Homeopathic Materia Medica with Repertory by William Borick. And Textbook of Materia Medica by A.C. Copperthwaite. Which of these books all consisted of alphabetical listings of the herbs, their remedies, and how they were still used by herbologists as well as some doctors. Now, Emmett Dinsmore, who was a very known eclectic physician, he was known for writing How Nature Cures in 1892. He included chapters on nutrition, stress, obesity, toxic agents, emotional aspects, hygiene, suggestions of attainment of longevity.
Right.
Basically, all information that in 1982 they apparently could have found in any sophisticated holistic health manual. As the 1900s continued forward, eclectic physicians and homeopaths, chiropractors, and folk healers had a dramatically less influence within general medical community. By 1931, there was a significant, unarguable event that took place. The nation's last witchcraft trial. This was 2 Indian healers who were in their 80s. And they said, or were accused of, taking the disease-causing spirit of a bear out of the throat of an Indian.
Right.
They were actually convicted and put in jail for a year, although the sentence was suspended. This was a bad omen and a bad day for folk healing and the things to come. Now, as we in America geared up for World War II, we moved into an era of hyper-industrialism. Now, this has remained. This was total reliance on mechanical solutions to virtually every major problem. And this impacted medicine and continues to do so very powerfully. Since World War II, medicine has reached such a heightened dependency on technology in our time, but even, then, folk medicine has been stigmatized, considered crude, superstitious, struggles of ignorant people to relieve suffering. As we came into the 1980s, America had only one stumbling block left that prevented technology-oriented medical doctors from sewing up the monopoly on healthcare. Their procedures were not working. And that was proven through dominant health problems of the latter half of the century, degenerative diseases of cancer, the cardiovascular diseases, arthritis, diabetes. They weren't responding particularly well to surgery or pharmaceutical drugs or hospital machinery. Since 1940s, they only had an 8% improvement in survival rates for cancer. The incidence of the disease increases every year. So, about 2/3 of people who got cancer still died from it.
Right.
No drug has been shown to do anything other than alleviate symptoms of heart disease, arthritis, or diabetes. America spends more money per person on health care than any other country in the world. Fourteen other countries in 1982 dominated America, or the United States, in male life expectancy. And the most revealing statistic is that despite the billions of dollars that America spent on medical research and technology, our life expectancy is still only about 63 or 64 years. No. I'm sorry. The given life expectancy of any American who is already 60 is only about 3 or 4 years longer than it was in the 1900s. And nowadays, actually, that's not even true. So in 1982, that was still true.
Right.
But for today, that's not true anymore. So, they believed back in 1982 this was a failure in medical profession to solve degenerative disease that now affects over 3/4 of the American population. And this evidence emerges in 1970s with drug therapies for contagious diseases of the earlier part of the century, which had not been effective agents. Thomas McOwen, a researcher, demonstrated that epidemics of tuberculosis, whooping cough, measles, scarlet fever, and influenza were not conquered by pharmaceutical drugs or immunizations, but instead by general improvements in public sanitation, nutrition, personal hygiene, and a decline in the virulence of the microorganisms involved, as well as a decline in overcrowding and similar environmental factors. And then McGowan showed that all of these had radically declined prior to their treatments with drugs or vaccines. Now, in the 1960s and 70s, the government showed a willingness to pick up more and more costs of medical because the very sheer cost of medical treatment had come under sharp criticism. So, the government got involved, and then there was another escalation of those costs. So major medical bills suddenly became out of the question for anybody who didn't have governmental insurance or people with other buffers. Now, due to recognition of critical limitations of technological medicine and the social factors, a movement began about mid-1960s. It became commonly known as holistic medicine. Holistic medicine, which was really nothing more than a more updated incarnation of folk medicine or medicine ways, and medicine that was being practiced in empirical, vitalistic, pragmatic mode, and that propelled by a recognition that viable alternatives to technomedicine had to be explored. It also helped activate the slumbering vitalistic traditions and trends started being made from the 1960s to 1970s in questioning authority, being personally responsible for one's own general well-being, and recognizing the possible existence of spiritual or non-physical forces, and distrusting the less benign aspects of technological progress.
That's interesting.
Right? Many.
We have a huge mystery actually unfolding right now that is like breaking news and everybody's talking about it.
Okay.
Dutch Sense is missing.
Again?
His whole no, this ain't like that. His website's completely gone. Every YouTube video he ever made is gone. Every Twitch video he's ever made is gone.
Oh, shit.
Everything is gone.
Didn't he warn us about this?
Mm-hmm.
And didn't Dutchinson just give a 2-week warning too?
I think Dutchin, I don't know. Dutch and Terry have been off, but he did predict Puerto Rico.
See?
So he did just predict Puerto Rico. With all the Puerto Rican earthquakes that have happened that have now been about 10 6.0 earthquakes down there in Puerto Rico, he did predict that last week. That was one of the last things he predicted. At first, I thought it was just BS because everybody's like you just said, don't Dutch always go missing?
Right.
Other people said that too. But I didn't start to think about it until two of my friends who aren't usually ones that I know to follow Dutch.
Right.
Who were like, Dutch is missing. Where's Dutch Sense? And you go, I was going to go look to see when his last video was. There's not a video. No playlist exists for this channel. No videos exist for this channel. That man has been on YouTube 10 fucking years.
Right.
Okay? Unless this is like a ploy when he comes back, he makes up a bunch of shit. Because he's kind of done this in the past when then he disappears and then he's like, people were attacking me and, we don't really know that. And there's never been any proof given to us that this has occurred.
They really need fire.
You know what I mean? Like when he said people broke into his house, he never had a police report.
You'd think David would wake up, but he's not. I've shut everything off.
It's ridiculous. I don't know what's going on.
I've unplugged my blanket. I've unplugged my phone. Everything's unplugged.
That's interesting.
So, many offspring of folk medicine are now approached as sciences. This included chiropractic, osteopathy, nutritional therapy, herbal pharmacology, and exercise therapy, lay psychotherapy, Watch your step. Your dog did some stuff back there, I believe. Now, many of these, from a philosophical basis and particular procedures of the professions, were drawn directly from folk medicine. Practitioners of these holistic professions try to downplay the proximity to folk medicine because they feel that the very association disintegrates their scientific expertise. Thus, folk practice is actually now more evidence folk practices now have more evidence than the last 100 years, considered by many holistic practitioners to be the cornerstone of the world's medical future. And folk medicine, unfortunately, is vehemently disparaged.
Right.
Now, the one thing that has been left alone, even thus far, is the naturopathic physicians. Naturopaths are basically the updated version of folk healers, pragmatics, vitalistics, and the comprehension of that. They are an immediate lineal descendant of early 20th century eclectic physicians who also embraced folk practices. Now, we can't easily dismiss folk medicine.
No.
In 1982, they could still place about 2.3 to 2.8 billion people, or 56 to 67% of the entire world's population, as still relying completely and or partially on traditional folk methods of curing.
So what was the percentage there?
56 to 67%.
That was most of the people, y'all. Now, and now, I bet you that number would be so low it hurts, y'all. So low it hurts.
Right?
Just saying.
For real, though.
It's real.
From Central America to Africa to Europe to Southeast Asia as well as Asia, there are unorthodox medicines that are flourishing as of 1982, right alongside the more accepted that we here in America usually turn to first, as well as in England. 25% of all prescriptions dispensed by modern-day physicians contain active ingredients from plants, according to expert Norman R. Farnsworth, Ph.D., who was a pharmacy scientist at the Illinois Medical Center in Chicago. He also said that all plants yield useful drugs, and all of the plants yield useful drugs, and we find those in prescription extracts.
Oh my God! Gee, hold on. We made it on InfoWars. Oh my God!
We did?
The group? No, we didn't. But the group for vaccine. When we went out and protest on Saturday, we made it on InfoWars.
That's
the cover
awesome.
picture for the you know how the big tree came out with the WHO admitting that vaccines cause irreparable harm. They used our group as the cover picture for that.
Amazing.
Right? Just saying.
So, he admitted that all of these were rich in medicinal folklore. If it wasn't for folk medicine, there would be no excellent drugs available to modern medicine. So, why people were turning to folk medicine more? Because money doesn't just affect the poor. Middle class as well as upper class stress about this often.
Sickness doesn't care if you're rich or poor.
You know, there was a man, one of the wealthiest men in North America, gave regular donations in tens of thousands of dollars to Toronto General. Now that's Canada's hospital. But he bought certain health foods and used herbs because it was less expensive to keep from getting sick.
Right.
Huh. Imagine that.
Right. It's a novel thought.
Right? Speaking with poor Ethiopians, who maintain that garlic is a much better antibiotic for them specifically than penicillin that was available to them in hospitals or clinics.
Right.
Even though that medication was free.
Right. Isn't that cute?
No matter where you look, people, rich or poor, are taking advantage of folk medicine because it's cheaper or it's more in tune with them, as well as their cultures and traditions, even if they don't realize it.
Right.
Now, there was a Kentucky mountain man that had a quote, which was, "The way I pick my datchters, mister, is to figure out which of them gives the most damn about me." So what he was saying is, the way he picks his doctors is to figure out which one of them gives the most damn about him. So, the key to any successful care
Interesting.
Now, here are two reports, opposite ends of the globe, giving emphasis to this. A sociologist that's writing from Jerusalem explains that he thinks a number of Israel citizens turned from legitimate to illegitimate cures. a patient turns to a traditional healer when he has had a personally frustrating experience with a modern agent, usually a physician. And he wrote that in Israel Annual Psychiatry and Related Disciplines, September 15th of 1977. Then there was another doctor with the University of Malaya in Kuala Lumpur that said it is not uncommon for the sick in Malaysia to feel that modern medicine merely deals with the palliation of the manifestations of illness. To him, an injury is merely the manifestation of some fundamental ill. Why did he fall from the tree which he has so often climbed in the past? Was witchcraft the cause? Why did he, of all people, develop tuberculosis? Did he commit some offense, or did he annoy some spirit? To him, traditional medicine not only treats the manifestations of the illness, but can also explain the underlying event and prescribe the appropriate ritual to remove the real underlying cause. It would appear then that the modern medicine fails to provide the necessary ritual and philosophical basis which is considered essential by members of such societies. This was written in the American Journal of Chinese Medicine, Volume 7, Number 3, 1979, the year of my birth. Isn't that ironic?
Isn't it?
So, Asia Indians and Navajo Reservation Indians in the northern Arizona zone have given witness to this writer.
Right.
Benefits of patients with Hindu or Native American medicine by singing, dancing, chanting, administering herbs, practicing yoga, creating beautifully colored sand paintings. Almost all instances, such as folk healers, in almost all instances, folk healers would hold hands, stroke foreheads, and massage those whom they were treating. How many of you have ever had your physician do any of those things on a regular basis when you've been ill? I can honestly say one. I've had one do that. And that was actually my doctor that was delivering my first child, and there was distress. There was a lot going on, and he stopped in the middle of everything. He's a very, very, very tall man. And he dropped to his knees next to my hospital bed, and he took me by the hand, and he kissed me on the forehead, and he said, "I promise we'll make this okay." In 40 years of life, that's the only one I can say that. And I knew then, as I know now, that was a rarity. Rarity.
Interesting.
Okay. Now, now some will tell you that doctors do not have time to do these sorts of things. So this actually makes for better arguments in favor of folk healers. Simply put, a folk healer can allow themselves more time than a medical doctor. When you can acquaint yourself with the two situations. And there's a touch and listen therapy that's made in all difference within the world. There was a woman in southern Arizona. She was Apache. She had to do some things in the hospital. She was just suffering from some common ailment, recovery of which is 95%. Okay? Right?
Right.
She requests her tribal medicine man to come and sit with her in the hospital. She wanted him to hold her hand. She wanted him to sing a healing chant. You know, this was comfort. This was strength she was looking for. The hospital wouldn't allow it.
Galapagos volcano erupting right now.
Ooh.
Dude, that's the fourth one, like, technically in the last 24 hours. You had Italy, you had Philippines, you had Japan that had huge blast, and then Dutch sense is gone. This is not good. Did they take him out? Did they kill him? I mean, that's a good question right now. I hate to keep interrupting, but I feel like that's breaking news.
No, I get it.
What is going on?
Dude, what is going on here? That's like the fourth freaking emergency vehicle that has gone down the freaking highway.
You lying?
No.
Go check the one in the group. Go check the little group. Go see.
I wonder. Let's see.
Yeah, it just started tonight, supposedly. The Tal volcano was already in a major eruption. The seismicity started increasing after Tal was in eruption. The first image saw a radial fissure along the southeast edge with lava flows descending to the coast. Fernandina is one of the youngest islands in the archipelago. Its ecological value is very high because ecosystems host unique species such as terrestrial and marine iguanas, snakes, endemic rats, non-flying cormorants, penguins, among others. And the whole volcano is literally like lighting the sky with its pyroclastic flow. The last time it erupted was June 16th of 2018.
Interesting.
And it's closest to the Galapagos mantle plume, which that's not good because that means people have been saying all these plumes are charging up to expand the Earth right now. And it's not good. And it was formed during several episodes of collapse.
Right.
So,
you guys, good. I think we should, keep talking there. Okay. We're going to stop on the other stuff for this episode, and we'll pick it back up next Sunday with that, because I think that you should pick this up for a few.
Yeah. This is interesting, though, because things are really popping up. I mean, honestly, I don't even know. Let me go check EMSC. Let's go check the earthquakes while we're here live. Let's go do this. Let's do the thing. All right, let's go.
Right.
Come on with me.
Because this Dutch being gone and all of his videos and everything being erased is very worrisome.
Knowing that we've had one, now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, right? And I know it just came to you too, while you were like, wait, hold on. You might be right. 4 volcanoes erupting with huge explosions in one day has not happened.
Right.
This is a big-ass deal. What the hell is going on? Something's going on. I could tell you that. What?
Right.
We don't know. Okay, so what do we got here? Island of Hawaii, 2.0, 53 minutes ago, 4.2, Gulf of Alaska, Puerto Rico, 3.5, Puerto Rico, 4.2, off coast of North Island of New Zealand, Eastern Turkey, Indonesia, Java, Spain, Italy, Oklahoma. That's a lot of Oklahomas, y'all, because Oklahoma don't get hit like that, or Italy.
Right?
Not that many in a row. Not where you see Oklahoma, like within minutes of each other.
Right.
Mindoro, Philippines, Nequin, Argentina. I haven't seen that one before. Luzon,
Don't cry
Philippines.
for me, Argentina. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Right, but that's what I'm talking about. And so that's what I see right now. So I don't see anything special, but what they're saying is important, because if Fernandina was going off at the same time as the one in the Philippines, that's fascinating, because that means that something triggered it. And if you think about it latitudinally, it's not too crazy to think that those mantle plumes of magma could not be connected. So we're going to go over to volcanodiscovery.com.
Right.
All right, we're going to go to Volcano Discovery. We're going to go down. We're going to hit volcanoes. We're going to hit volcanoes today. And we'll see what's been hitting ever since. So we've got ASO in Kyushu, Japan. Possible activity continues. Volcanic cloud unknown. Okay, so we don't know how big that one is. They ain't going to tell us. Sakurajima, flight level 80 extended. Okay. Now, that's pretty big. Exploded.
Right.
How big did it actually go? Will they tell us? Sometimes they will. But they don't have any forecast for that. For over flight level 80. It says tall in the Luzon, Philippines. The volcano, that's the one that went off today. That is amazing. Eruptive activity. Volcanic ash alert. Emissions continue. Significant eruption first in 43 years. Okay, so that's interesting, because Tal on Sunday was upgraded, for the first time in 40 years. Fuego possibly went off. But
Right.
They won't tell us how far. Possible volcanic ash emissions, but they won't tell us how big.
Right.
Dukono, which is in Halmahera, Indonesia, flight level 70, explosive activity continues. Darwin warned about a volcanic ash plume that rose up to an estimated 7,000 feet, 2,100 meters altitude, or flight level 70. We don't know about Fuego. And then Sabancaya, unable to detect, but it was an eruption. Okay? And that's just for today, the 13th, like today already, Monday.
Right.
So yesterday, during all this was going on, ASO in Japan and Sakurajima, which two volcanoes on Japan Island were erupting, which that's a big deal.
Right.
Luzon, Philippines, the first time since 1977, and sent a 55,000-foot blast. Now let me tell you what. This is only the third 55,000-foot blast since Dutchsense ever started recording his YouTube.
Oh. That's an FFF for you.
Mm-hmm. Fun fucking fact. You ain't never lied. That's true. Because when you think about that, and last year around this time was the other two, where we saw 55,000-foot blast at one of the either the Kamchatka region of Russia. One of those, I forget which one it was. And then we only had 3 55,000-foot blasts.
Right.
That's it. And I think those were 50,000-foot blasts that were, like, unprecedented. So this is, like, 55. They don't know if it's phreatic or phreomagnetic. It's extremely dangerous. It has the potential to produce massive base surges and tsunami waves in the lake. As in the last past major eruption of 1965, there's a 14-kilometer exclusion zone around the main crater in place. But you guys, the main crater is in the middle of an island that's surrounded by a lake. And so that doesn't help people.
Right.
Brownout has been, with widespread ashfall, has been occurring. Mauna Loa. Okay, now, remember, Kilauea erupts, Mauna Loa erupts. We're still waiting for that. That hasn't passed.
Right.
So Mauna Loa is a big island, Hawaii. During the past week, HBO seismometers have recorded 56 small magnitude earthquakes beneath the upper elevations of the volcano. Most earthquakes occurred at shallow depths of less than 3 miles beneath the volcano. GPS and interferometric system aperture radar (INSAR) measurements show continued slow summit inflation, consistent with magma supply to the volcano's shallow storage system. Gas concentrations at the sulfur cone monitoring site on the southwest rift zone remain stable. Real temperatures as measured at both sulfur cone and the summit have not changed. Hawaiian Volcano Observatory note that rates of seismicity at Kilauea were variable but within long-term veils. Sulfur dioxide emission rates were low at the summit and were below detection limits at Pu'u'o in the lower rift zone. The pond at the bottom of Halemaumau crater, which began forming on July 25, 2019, continues to slowly expand and deepen. As of January 2020, the dimensions of the pond are 84 meters by 190 meters, 280 feet by 620 feet. Current depth is 75 feet deep. This started out as a puddle, y'all.
Right.
This started out as a puddle. Where is the water coming from? Obviously, it broke through the water table because, see, what we were waiting for that never happened, right, was that when this collapsed, it was supposed to hit water that hit the magma that created a phreatic explosion that literally blows up at Kilauea. We never got that. Now we have a 75-foot goddamn lake sitting on top of it. If wherever that rock is collapses into the magma, and that's 75 feet worth of water, however many goddamn gallons that is, because it measures 280 by 620 feet, and then it's 75 foot deep. How many goddamn gallons is that? Millions of gallons. That hits and breaks through. You're going to get an explosion of a lifetime.
Oh, yeah.
Explosion of a lifetime. Over the past month, about a dozen inflation events occurred beneath the summit, similar to prior months. Since early March 2019, GPS stations and tilt meters at the Kilauea summit have recorded deformation consistent with slow magma accumulation within the shallow portion of Kilauea summit magma system. 1 to 2 kilometers, or approximately 1 mile below ground level, which you're pushing it right now with where Halemaumau crater broke to. However, HBO gas measurements show continuing low levels of sulfur dioxide consistent with no significant shallowing of magma. Some amount of sulfur dioxide is being dissolved into the summit lake. There's more. Further east, GPS stations and tilt meters show the motions consistent with slowed refilling of the deep east rift zone magmatic reservoir in the broad region between Pu'u'o and Highway 130. HBO monitoring data does not suggest any imminent change in volcanic hazard for this area. Okay, but y'all assholes couldn't predict this to begin with. Dutch did. Dutch predicted Kilauea erupting because Pu'u'o collapsed. And 5 days later, Kilauea started erupting, and these fissures in the lower east rift zone started occurring. Dutch saw it and told everybody to hold the hell on.
Right.
In addition, the motion brought along the east rift zone of the south flank of Kilauea continues to creep seaward at elevated rates. Okay, right. Following the May 4th, 2018 M6.9 earthquake near Kalapana. The HBO continues to carefully monitor all data streams from along the Kilauea east rift zone and south flank for important changes. Now, what the hell are they going to do if something does happen? What are they going to tell these folks? Oh, let's just hurry up and get all you off the island? Right. We all know that ain't possible. So what are they actually going to tell these folks if they really do find something? They ain't going to tell these folks. They ain't going to tell these folks.
No.
They already didn't want to tell it. We already saw how they treated them during the 2018 eruption.
I was
going to
say,
everybody like they were idiots. Now, we're going to have to deal with this. I don't know what we're going to have to do about this. But what I can say is we've got a serious problem. Even Popocatépetl blew up yesterday. Waco blew up yesterday. Kaya blew up. They're talking about 24,000-foot blast. What the hell is going on? I mean, we're getting blasts at places that are too big and all at once in Mauna Loa and everywhere. And what if we start, I just don't know. I don't know if we start seeing daily pop-ups everywhere. I really don't know what to say about this. Now, there was some significant activity, you know, seismically, but nothing that you could, Puerto Rico 2 minutes ago, again. Let's find out how big it is. Look at this shit. It's just popping off live. I gotta watch for it to scroll again. Come on, scroll. Hurry up. Earthquake possibly felt in Puerto Rico. They ain't saying what it is, though. We ain't getting no confirmations on that, you guys. This could be a big one. This could be a really big one. Because we're not even getting a number. We're just getting possibly felt. It's not even showing up on the seismology page. You guys, whole lot of nope on this. Whole lot of nope. They ain't even showing this one up. Where is it? Red, I really don't feel good about this right now.
I hear you.
These people have been hit with so many earthquakes in the last week that the fact that we're not even getting you usually. Okay, now let me tell you how this usually goes. I look at the EMSC, something like that scrolls, and it'll say possible M5.9 felt in Puerto Rico 2 minutes ago, and then when you at least if it's not on the front page where it'll show that it registers, right? They at least show it on the seismology page to show that it occurred and that it was picked up by the seismograms. We're not getting that. Why? Was it because it's too big? Was it because it was really small and insignificant? You see my problem here? We don't know. And we can't get information out of Puerto Rico like we need to. So even if shit was literally going down, we're not going to know right away.
Nope.
I only have a couple places that I can go look, but I found them when I was searching for the last time. But this is out of control.
Yeah.
This is out of control. We don't even know what it is, you guys. This could be like the biggest one we've ever seen. We don't know. Their whole island could be gone right now, and we don't know. But this is why we need to know.
Right.
This is why we need to know. I'm very concerned. I'm going to try to find... there's only one place that I can think of that would have this, and I don't know Spanish, so I gotta look it up this way to find the live page, because I don't know how to speak Spanish. I'm good enough to know what the word for live TV is. That's all. I wish I did. Maybe in vivo? Maybe that's in live? Yeah, in vivo. We'll see. They don't have any live stream right now. Weird. If there was something going on, they'd be live. We're going to find out here pretty soon.
Well, maybe not if all the stuff's knocked down.
Oh, it's like the biggest one. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Depending on where it hit, you're right. You're absolutely right.
I mean, we're always so quick on that technology thing to be like, oh, if this was happening, but we don't think what happens when something happens and knocks out these communication factors. You know, they could be end of the world right now, San Andreas fault kind of shit, and they have no ability to get on the internet or even call each other.
True that. True that. It's true.
So it's
Okay,
almost
let's
like,
see.
and we've been trained that no word is no news is good news. In this
Right.
particular instance, it might not be that way.
You goddamn right about that. Now, let's see what current time it is UTC, because I don't know that conversion either. Let me look this up. Now, 7 minutes ago. Oh, M.4.5. We got it. I thought this was the earthquake because I just found it on IRIS. Good old IRIS, you guys. So IRIS is like the international earthquake management application that all of the schools use when they have a seismo, right? So I figured I'm going to go look there. I found it, and I was just about to look up what time it happened UTC, but now I have it right here at 10:01:28 UTC, which it had right away. It was the bright one. It was number 1 on IRIS. In Puerto Rico region, the seismic station out of San Juan is a little off of the coast, but close to Ponce and the areas that were hit previously, but I guess it would be a little bit more east of where it's happening. So it's creeping closer to the other side of the island now. But was it really a 4.5, or did they just have to sit there and play with the numbers because,
Right.
Because we already know that this earthquake down there was bigger than a 6.0 because houses don't collapse on a 6.0. Puerto Rico has been having 4s and 5s and 5.6s and all this other shit the whole time I've been covering this for over 2 years. Their houses haven't busted down. And I'm going to tell you right now, a 5.6 ain't much different from a 6.0 when it comes down to it. Yes, it increases by the power of 10, but when you only have 4 10th points, it's not that big of a deal when it comes to earthquakes. It's just not. And a 6 ain't taking out houses that are brick. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's not. So the fact that everybody's houses collapsed, it had to be in the 7, 7.5, potentially even an 8.0. But how do you tell people, oh, you just went through an 8.0? See, if this happened in Asia, it'd be a lot easier to be like, oh, all you guys deal with 8.0s all the time, so suck it. These people don't, and this is a new phenomenon. They say you can see the crack that the first earthquake created from fucking space. There's no way a 6.0 created a crack seen from motherfucking space.
Right.
Okay? Ain't no other 6.0 on Earth done made nowhere where it makes a crack in space. So therefore, I don't believe y'all. Y'all gonna have to come up with something better than that. Now, everybody's gonna believe the official narrative and say Scarlet's crazy. That's cool. I don't care what y'all say. Let me tell you what. Once you've researched earthquakes as long as I have, you will say it's fucky too. I may not know the answer to what this is. I may not know what it was. But what I can say, fucky behavior, because this ain't that. Something is wrong.
Right.
That small of an earthquake does not create everybody's houses collapsing and everybody dying. Okay? That's just not how it works. Now, we don't know how many if anybody died, but I assume somebody did because, hell, 3,000 people died during Hurricane Maria, and they lied about it for a year and a half. And I kept telling people, no, hella people died. For real, y'all. Hella people died. Everybody's like, no, Scarlet, you're wrong. Look, who was right in the end? Right. Scarlet was. Scarlet was right. She had the right idea.
Right.
So I'm telling you right now, something's fucky with this. It ain't. Why did they wait so long?
Right.
Why did they wait so long? That's all I want to know. From the time they said now, it would have been 11 minutes ago that we would have saw this. We saw this at 2 minutes. So for the last 9 minutes, they've been fucking around. What's up with that?
Right.
Just saying. Now, like I said, good old Iris, when I looked it up, had the earthquake.
Right.
So that was good. That was good. But in the same moment, what the hell? And this one had a long squiggly wave before the P wave. What the hell was that? Yeah. I don't know what that was either. The S wave's very interesting too. I need to go back and look at this one compared to like 6.0 from a few days ago just to check. Because I don't trust no one at this point. I'm very skeptical. And Dutch is missing.
Right.
So I have a hashtag that I've started. Hashtag Where's Dutch. Hashtag Find Dutch. I don't know what other hashtag I meant. Oh, Where's Dutch? Hashtag Michael Yuri Janich. Because that's his full name. That's his government name. Hashtag Find Dutch. We need to find this motherfucker. We need to at least know he's alive and all right. Because I promise you, if they took out Dutch, something about to happen. Because it has been proven that his predictions have been 85% correct over time in history, which is fucking better than USGS or any other motherfucker can say out there.
Yeah.
85% correct. You know, I had somebody even argue with me the other day about that, like, no one can predict earthquakes. Well, this motherfucker does, and does it with fucking accuracy like you've never seen. So that's great that they have you conditioned that no one can predict it. But it can be predicted, not now. Now, not every situation can be predicted. Was Tall predicted? Some may say yes, some may say no. You know, you'd have to, I honestly haven't been looking at the earthquakes the last weekend to say for sure, or the last week, for instance, to say, oh yeah, for sure that was going to happen. But had I done that, I probably could have said, yeah, oh yeah, I see it. It's right there. You know, there were some deep earthquakes in, where was it? New Zealand, Fiji, Tonga area. That energy has to travel upward. The next stop on its trip is Indonesia and the Philippines. So, just saying. Very concerned at this point. Don't feel good about this. These poor people, what is Puerto Rico going to do? So, it's interesting.
I'd say.
Now they have to evacuate. Now they're total evacuation of 500,000 people near Manila in the Philippines.
For a 4-point-some.
500,000 people, bro. Oh, now they've downgraded it to a 4.4 in Puerto Rico now. I don't got time for them. But yeah, total evacuation of 500,000 people near Manila in the Philippines. Manila is one of their largest cities.
Yeah, why for such a low magnitude are you clearing everything out?
Well, no, remember, this is the volcano in Taal.
Oh, okay.
Remember, that's the one that blew up, and it's still, but they're afraid for an explosive eruption coming in the hours or days. Its highest alert level is 5, and it's on alert level 4. But alert level 5 means an eruption is actually taking place.
I see.
So this is about as dangerous as it gets. But it is considered the world's most dangerous because of how many people live around it. Everyone within a 10.5-mile radius around the volcano is considered in the volcanic danger zone and is home to more 450,000 residents, according to the United Nations Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. As of Monday, more than 16,400 people have sought shelter in temporary evacuation centers set up by authorities. The total number of evacuees is likely to be higher, with many people choosing to stay with families and relatives in other parts of the country. Federal authorities are helping on the response and evacuation operation, and the Army sent 20 military vehicles and 120 personnel to help residents. The Defense Secretary also urged residents near the eruption to evacuate and not to hesitate leaving homes. Aid organizations like the Red Cross are assisting by sending rescue vehicles and supplies. The volcano is surrounded by a lake, which is a popular attraction, meaning many of the towns in the vicinity are tourism hotspots. There are several amusement parks, lakeside resorts, and yacht clubs within the evacuation ranges. The holiday town of Tagaytay, which lies close to the water edge, is a popular getaway for Manila residents who often take boats onto the lake and hike up the volcano. There are several municipalities within the volcanic danger zone, each home to many tens of thousands of people, many who rely on fishing in the lake and agriculture for your livelihood. Sorry to bust y'all's bubble, but after today, with that 55,000-foot blast and all that volcanic ash going into that lake, y'all fish is going to be dead. Okay? That's the end of that. I'm sorry to be the one to report it to you, but you will not be able to fish out of that lake anymore. All the fish will die. volcanic magmatic explosions are magma isn't already seeping into the bottom of the ocean. We don't know that. Lava is beginning to erupt and is also dangerous, creating a big lava fountain that can cause hot ash and lava to spill. However, ashfall from the volcano poses a threat for residents far outside the 10.5-mile area. There are 10 cities and municipalities surrounding the volcano, some lying outside that evacuation radius, and they're home to nearly 760,000 people. So now we're talking over 1 million goddamn people. We're talking over 1 million people. Sunday, the volcanic ash spread as far as the Quezon City north of Manila, prompting the suspension of all flights in the capital's national airport. Though the ash isn't considered toxic, that shit's toxic. There's fluorine, bromine, halogens, fucking heavy metals, all the shit in volcanic ash and gas. Don't let them lie to you. Please do not let them lie to you. Because that is a lie. There's hydrogen sulfide. There's sulfur dioxide. There's hydrogen gas in a different form. Hydrogen dioxide. There's a bunch of shit in there. They say it does have shards of fine glass that contaminate air and water supplies. No, it's way more than that. They said ash mixed with rain, and it created a sludge that blanketed cars, streets, homes. The ash is even heavier than snow. It could cause roofs to collapse. More than 25 million people living within 62 miles of the volcano could feel the effects. The volcano has seen powerful eruptions. One in 1754 lasted 6 months. Its deadliest eruption took 1,300 lives in 1911. It erupted again in 1965, killing 190 people, and continued to have 4 more minor eruptions in the years since. They monitored tremors at the volcano as early as March 2019, but they were surprised by the rapid speed of the eruption Sunday. That's all they say about it. That is it. It's messed up. Messed up, Red.
What?
I said it's messed up. They don't really say anything else.
It is messed up.
That's all they kind of said. They just kind of left it at that.
And that's BS.
Isn't it? Because there's so much more going on with that.
You ain't never lied.
Yeah. Oh, now there's another one. Oh, it's two earthquakes. It's 2 earthquakes. It's 2 earthquakes. 2 4.5s at once. The plot thickens. Plot thickens, though.
Right.
And right after we saw that warning, Mindoro, Philippines. How far the hell away is this from, I wonder? 75 kilometers south of Manila. This can't be too far away then. Oh, it's right on the edge of that little caldera lake. Oh, isn't that cute? The little caldera lake's where I'm staying with Cody.
Right.
3.8. Just hit now.
Oh, what?
Oh, 3.6. They just downgraded it. You know, I'm tired of y'all. That was 24 minutes ago. And then we get that alert. Oh, and then they had a 4.0 an hour and 38 minutes ago, 3.6, 3.6, 3.5. Lots of things going on. So, with that being said, this is shit.
It is.
This is shit. We need to get ready. I don't know what's going to happen, but I saw some interesting information. We're going to have to look into this more, but people are talking about another volcanic eruption. Which one in Ecuador? Which one? Did I say one in Ecuador? I don't remember saying one in Ecuador. Let's see. Oh, yeah, Cerro La Cumbre, Fernandina. Did I say Fernandina? I don't know if I said Fernandina. Yeah, that was the Galapagos one. That one looked crazy. I I just don't know what to think is going to happen, but people are talking about this May 12th date is a really big deal, and multiple people are getting the sign for this. Like, I don't know. I don't like it. I feel like something bad is going to happen. And I don't know why. I just don't know why. Everybody's having a really hard time all around the world. And how much worse is this going to get?
Yeah, that is pretty screwed up.
It is. I mean, we just don't even know what to think about this right now.
No.
Oh, and now they took it off of the... Hold on, let me reload this page, because they didn't took it off of the actual main page even. There we go, 4.4. 30 people said that they've felt this earthquake already. People said felt strong, fuerte, strong. This one say felt moderate at the Herb Jardines, they won't say. Mild earthquake, strong. What's this? I'd like to get longer, people. Lateral motion felt inside car. People said it's strong, though. And a 4 isn't strong. A 4
Right.
in most circumstances, you should not be able to feel.
Right.
If a 4 happened in the United States, most people wouldn't feel it. When a 4 happens most all around the world, they wouldn't feel it. Dutch has said 1,000 times, a 4 you probably would not be able to feel. When we've asked people that have been in earthquake areas, like especially Kilauea, when they were getting 4.4s and all this, like, do you feel them? No. This is what makes me believe it's larger. And I don't think you could change my mind about that.
Right.
I just don't. At this point, I just don't. Something ain't right. We're going to have to see where it unfolds. But this is... I'm lost for words. And that's not good. I do not know how we explain this. But people are saying we're going to come into an age where we're going to see cataclysms that we've never seen. Some people believe, like I said, this May 12th date is supposed to be like, you know, the day we hear about in the Bible where everybody was in shock and awe. I don't know. I don't know how to feel. So that's something. And it'll be exciting to finish that. And the last thing I'm going to add about the Dutch mystery.
Right.
Okay, now, the post I shared on the internet shows people showing that it's gone, right? And at that time, it was still, the page was still colored. Okay? Now, when you go look, every single page is gone, but YouTube's, like, header on his cover page are all gray. don't know what that means, but they're all gray. Like it's just been washed out. I don't know what to think. I don't know. I hope we're not getting into one of those cataclysms we can't get out of. I hope so. I hope we're not getting into that. I hope I'm wrong. I hope we're not going to start seeing things that we don't want to see that make us, have to act completely different. But this can't happen even on a good day for people. We're still waiting for Cascadia. All these volcanoes are going off. I'm not feeling good about it. So, anything else you got, Red? You got anything else? Red? Red. Well, the phone's about to die here soon. We should probably end the show here, too.
Yeah, we probably should.
Probably should. So with that being said, stay tuned for updates this week. Ron and I will go live volcanically or earthquake-wise if anything else goes bigger. If anything else gets even worse from now, we will pop on, obviously.
Right.
Tune into Ron tomorrow night at 8 p.m. To hear more about this and talk about these things. If you are interested in volcanic processes or interested in what goes on, tune into Emergency Management Associates, found here on FreedomRevolutionNetwork.com. Go to EMA Radio in the drop-down menu. And that's about it. We're going to keep watching this, but I don't have a good... I'm going to sit down for the next day and really try to get a good handle on what's going on to try to figure out where it's going.
Right.
Because if we could save a few lives in the process, it's better. But this is dangerous at this point. Dutch is missing. Anything could be going on. I don't want to speculate too deep, but a lot of us just always expect the worst when we see something like this.
Right.
That's all. I hope it's not, but very concerning.
Dare to be different, dare to be you, and dare to learn to love yourself unconditionally.
In the land of 10,000 lakes and from the highest desert valley in the great American Southwest. Good night, universe.